Welcome back everybody to a new Python tutorial series. So in this particular video, we're going to introduce the Iron Python framework. And so the Iron Python is basically a different type of Python environment, but really what it allows us to do is interact with the .NET framework. And so the .NET framework was developed by Microsoft, and what it allows, well, it's kind of a I'm going to try to do a very simple explanation of this, but it's basically a virtual machine that compiles and executes code that allows us to interact with different objects written across different languages. So the .NET framework supports, F sharp, C sharp. There's VB. Iron Python is a component of the .NET framework, and so it allows us to basically write our programs in different languages, but we can still use that framework to interact and execute them. So it's kind of this really cool idea of having all these languages kind of come up to a single spot where we can still interact with them across languages. So it's very cool, and it's able to do that using the common language runtime. And so this is kind of that little mechanism that allows us to interact with these objects across languages. And so that's kind of all I'll say about that topic for right now. I might do a video later kind of going a little bit more in detail, but for general purposes, that's kind of all you need to know is it's used for developing different types of Windows application, window forms, mobile app components on Windows, gaming apps that are used on Windows. Basically anything Windows, you would use the .NET framework. And then what it's allowing us to do is it allows us to write programs in different languages, but we can use it across those languages. So pretty cool stuff. With Iron Python, we're able to access the .NET framework using Python. Now, by default, you will not have Iron Python on your system more than likely, and so you will need to install it, but installing it is very, very easy. So all you're going to want to do is you can either just type in Iron Python into a Google search bar, and it's usually the first one that pops up, or you can go to ironpython.net. And so this is the website where you would download Iron Python. And so you would just go right over here that says download Iron Python. This will take you to a GitHub page. And depending on what system you're on, well, it's not really which system because you're pretty much going to be more than likely on Windows, you would just grab the selected folder or file that you need. Now, in most cases, the .msi file works fine. So you would just click that. It's going to download another version to it. You would just run it and you go through the installation process. There's really nothing fancy about this installation process. It's literally just clicking next, 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 and that's pretty much it. Once you've installed it though, I do recommend people add an environment variable so that way you can easily access Iron Python. In fact, they actually recommend that on the website. And so to do that, it's really straightforward. You would just go to your PC, you would go to the C drive, program files, and you will see Iron Python 2.7. You're just going to want to grab that path to that folder. You're going to go to your search bar, and you're going to type in environment. And then usually from here, it's one of the first ones to pop up. You want to edit the system environment variables. You're going to go down here to environment variables. You're going to go up to the top one for user variables. You're going to select path over to edit. And then you're going to say new. And it will take you to the first open spot. Now you can see that I have my little path right here. But all you would do is you would just paste it in like that. So very simple. Once you've done that, you can just press OK, OK, and OK. And then you want to test to make sure it works. So you just go back to your search bar, type in command, and then from here, command prompt opens up, and you type in IPY. And there you can see Iron Python. So it looks like it works fine. Keep in mind, Iron Python was built on top of Python 2.7, so there might be some situations in future videos where our syntax will be pretty different, so we just have to keep that in mind. We are technically on an older version of Python, so we might be seeing some syntax stuff that's different, and we might not have access to certain things that we might be used to having. So I'm just going to quit out of Iron Python, and then once we've done that, what you can do next, if you want, you can just open up your Visual Studios. So I have Visual Studio 2019. And from here, you would just do create a new project. And you would just go, you can type it up right here. It's pretty straightforward. You would select Python application. You go through this process and then you do create. Now I already have one open, so I'm just going to use that one. Once you have your new project up, you do need to activate your environment because by default, it's probably going to be set to Python 3.6 or 7 or whatever your default one is. So you're just going to go over here to your Solution Explorer. You're going to expand your project. You're going to go right here to Python environments. And if you open this up, you'll currently see the environment that you have activated. Now you can see that I have IronPython, but you're probably not going to have that. So you right click Python environments, you go to add environment. You're going to go down to existing environment, and you're going to want to select the ones that you have installed. Now you can see here, I have a couple different versions of IronPython installed. For the most part, they work all the same, unless you kind of have a design requirement that requires 64-bit or 32-bit, that's what it is. But you would just select it and you would just say add. And then once you add it, it probably will activate it by default. But if it doesn't, you just right click and you'll see activate environment. And so if it's kind of grayed out like this, it means it's activated. If it's not, then you just select it and it will activate that environment. And then once you've done that, we can start coding. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to import our CLR library. Keep in mind, there is a little bit of a bug right now inside of the IronPython environment. It's going to be more related to IntelliSense. Supposedly they are fixing it, but you'll see in a minute what I'm talking about. So we'll do CLR, add reference, and then we can do a reference to any of the Office interrupt libraries. So in this example, we're going to be doing Excel application. So we're going to be creating a reference to the Microsoft Office interrupt.excel reference assembly. But if you're kind of curious what references you have access to, it's actually pretty easy. If you go over here back to the Solution Explorer, if you select references and then right click and you do add reference, you can see all the assemblies that you have access to. Now, some of these you will not see. Well, it's like, for example, you're not going to see the Microsoft Office one in here, but you can create a reference to it. So part of it is you're going to have to know which references you have access to. But the ones that are kind of shared across Visual Studios, you can see them all here. So you can do System.Web, System.Web.Dynamic.Data. There's a lot of different libraries that we have access to that we can leverage now inside of the CLR module. So it's very useful for kind of interacting with all the Windows libraries that we have access to. This actually doesn't contain all of them. There are more, and I'm going to kind of explore and see if there's what's the most effective way to kind of bring that in there. I did come across some. I wasn't really happy with what they were saying. It seemed like it was kind of leaving you open to errors that could happen down the road. So once that kind of comes about, I will be kind of talking about that a little bit. Okay, and so once you do add reference, you just put in the name of that particular library that you want to create a reference to. So in this case, we're going to do Microsoft.Office.interrupt.excel. And so this will create a reference to this assembly. And then from here, we import it just like a normal kind of Python library. And so the way we do it is we're just going to do Microsoft.Office.interrupt. And then we do import Excel. This is what I'm talking about, the IntelliSense component. So right now there supposedly is a bug. I think they're fixing it, at least that's what I was reading on GitHub. So it won't recognize this right now, but in future videos, I'm hoping they fix that bug and we will actually have access to the IntelliSense component of our assembly library. So that's kind of something we're gaining that we didn't necessarily have inside of Win32com, which was IntelliSense. We were kind of going blind when we were typing, and we just had to know the methods and properties that belong to any given COM object. With the CLR module, we actually can leverage IntelliSense, so it's pretty useful. So really all we're doing here is create a reference to an assembly library, and then once you've created that reference, you can import that assembly. And then from here, it's basically writing the code how you would, for the most part, in C#. You're just now writing it in Python. So First thing is we'll create a new instance of an Excel application. So create a new Excel application object. And so I'm going to store it in a variable. I'm going to call it Excel app. I'm going to call my Excel module, and then I'm going to do application class. That will create a new one. I want to make sure I can see it. So see the app. And so we're going to call our application object, and we're going to set that visible property equal to true. And then you will not see a workbook because by default there will be none there. And so we're going to add a workbook. So we're going to store that in a variable. We're going to call it Excel book, and that will equal our Excel app. We're going to go into our workbooks collection, and then we're going to call the add method. And if I run it just like it is right now, we should see at least a blank Excel workbook. Lo and behold, we do. So working pretty good so far. Let's just do one little more extra thing, and then we'll kind of call it quits for this video. We'll actually grab the workbook, and then we'll grab the worksheet that exists in our workbook. And so here, grab the worksheet. And so what we'll do is I will say Excel sheet equals Excel book. I'm going to go in my worksheets collection. And then if I want to reference something, I can either use the index method or I can use the key method. In this case, it makes sense to use the key method. So we're just going to pass through the name of that worksheet. And then we will print out the name of the worksheet and the workbook. And so we'll say print. The workbook name is, it's not working, .format, Excel book, and then we will do the name of it. Oh, I need to close it. And then I need to do print. The worksheet name is .format, Excel sheet, .name. Alrighty, so let's run this and see what we get. Hopefully no errors. Looks like it worked fine. So we got the workbook name as book 1 and the worksheet name is sheet 1. And then with that, I am going to kind of finish off the video. Just some closing notes. A lot of people might be asking, like, you know, Alex, what the hell's the point of all this? Like, can't we just do that with Win32com? We can for some of it, but we'll find that certain libraries, they're just a little bit more well-maintained using the .NET framework, and we also get access to more libraries that we wouldn't have access to by default. So, you know, if you would like to see more on this particular topic, please, you know, put that in the comments below. I mean, if this is something where people feel like, you know what, it's just not doing it for me, that's fine too. We don't really have to cover it. I understand it's using an older version of Python, and it would kind of suck if this never actually gets fixed. I really hope it is getting fixed because otherwise it's kind of a pain. But there are some advantages to actually using the CLR library. So for example, in regular Python, we can't do multi-threading, but in the CLR library, we can actually achieve multi-threading. So there are some benefits to leveraging this .NET framework. Obviously, that's one, like I said before, we get access to more libraries that we didn't necessarily have access to. And then ideally, if they fix this little bug, we will get access to IntelliSense features. So that would make coding a little bit easier and faster for most people, just because they're not having to memorize, okay, I'm working with this object. What is the method of that object? And the arguments for that particular method. It does make the coding process a little bit easier. Now, we do obviously lose it a little bit in the sense that we're on an older version of Python, but for the most part, I think this actually is a nice library. Once you kind of get used to it, it just takes a little bit, and it's more of the setup component that I think kind of nerves people from starting it. So overall, I think it's useful, but again, if people really don't feel it's necessary, we don't have to kind of go down this road. So yeah. Definitely, I think there's something here if people want to see it. Also, if you could, please make sure to like the video. You know, we always appreciate the support. And if you're not already, please make sure to subscribe to the channel so that way you get regular updates as we release new videos. Just an FYI, I know some people will not like hearing this. I will start covering probably in a week or two, maybe a little bit earlier, the JavaScript API for Office. So Microsoft is pushing us in that direction, whether we kind of want to or not. But there are some benefits to using the Office API. The biggest one being you can basically write scripts that will now work on the web. With VBA, we couldn't do that whatsoever. You have a macro, you are not running that macro in a web version of your workbook. And so I think it's a useful API to know. We do have to start doing JavaScript, good old JavaScript, but it's going to allow us to do a lot more. And it's definitely, you'll find right away they've redone kind of that object model, and they've given us access to things that are just a little bit more intuitive, which I like, but we just have to kind of learn whole little new language. So keep in mind that is coming up relatively soon. So thanks again for watching, everybody. We will see you in the next video.